The fastest way to learn anything well is to sell yourself as the expert in it. We're not going to be able to ignore AI. Like it is just going to be prevalent everywhere, but we are going to need to outpace it creatively. And I think that we as professionals need to fill our brains with information from the physical world. If we are training bots, we need to be seeking novelty and originality as much as possible. When you start selling it, then all of a sudden you're fielding questions and different challenges that I've never encountered before. You have to think on your feet. You have to learn faster than you possibly can.
This is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast, where we are here to educate, equip, and inspire people to build extraordinary companies. We're so glad you're here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. Now let's get it started. Hey guys, welcome to the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. My name is Rick Meekins. I am going to be your host today. And in our studio with Reed Hansen. How are you today?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely thrilled to have you today. Absolutely thrilled to have you today. Remind me, where are you in the world?
I'm in Evanston, just outside of Chicago.
That's right. And the weather's like freezing cold in a place I'll never be, right?
Yeah, we've got the sun out today, which is nice, but we've had a rough couple months.
You have. Well, outstanding. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
My pleasure. I'm excited.
Folks, I'd be grateful if you haven't done it already. Like, subscribe, hit the bell so you can get updates every time we drop a new episode. And then without further ado, let's get it started. So Reed, I typically say, tell us a little about yourself, who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do. However, I'm told that this question is a little bit overwhelming. So, you know what? I'd love it if you tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. You've had a really great, interesting history, and I don't want to miss anything. Jump into that. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, stop me if I'm getting too long-winded, but I do feel like this has been a lifetime arc for me. When I was very young, my dad had a landscaping business. And so as young as age 8, my dad would take me on the job with him on evenings and weekends. And while a lot of my friends were out playing, in their yards in the neighborhood, I was pulling weeds and piling up rocks and starting to do helpful things for my dad's landscaping business. At the time, I don't think I liked it, but I really did come to respect my dad. And it was like extra time that I got to spend with him. And he was a hard worker, kind of a tough boss, but I just thought that was so cool and really unique. I got to see him, manage other employees and do hard work. It just, for me, I just thought an entrepreneur, a business owner is like the coolest person that you can be. And I was so proud of him. And, eventually though, his business did fail. And it was in large part because he was really good at the actual operations of the job, but did not allocate time or an individual or effort to collections, to like business development and sales. And that was also very informative, but that was like later in my teens. And when my own career started happening, I got a job with a tech startup and then with a bigger technology company working in sales roles. But I kept that itch. I wanted to be that business owner. I just thought that was so cool. And years later, after a few jobs in tech sales and then agency sales, I had the opportunity to purchase my own marketing agency, and so years later, here I am running a marketing agency. And the way it works is we have clients that use our technology, but also those that we do a lot of services for, ads and SEO, website development. And it's a wild ride. It's like project after project after project, and some running at the same time. There's busy periods, there's slower periods, and but I get to touch every aspect of the business, make sure it's running smoothly, decide what to outsource to do myself, and it's been as fun as I hoped. And I love this journey. I would recommend it for anybody.
What do you love most about being an entrepreneur?
I think it's the opportunity to make the decisions for the business. It's easy to make decisions because you flip a coin. Some decisions are right, some decisions are wrong. But the process of getting the information, finding alternates, negotiating for improved options, or using your network to find better insights. I love that decision making process and the power that it gives me. Often I felt like I was at the mercy of higher ups in the companies I was working for. I felt a little less empowered. And now I feel like I can make the decisions that benefit my team, my company, my employees, myself, and then be accountable. And like when I make the decision, I just drive forward for success. When others make the decision, I'm like, well, let's wait and see. And it's on them. So it's almost like a motivating factor when you want to be right and you want to make it right.
Fishing off somebody else's boat versus owning your own.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, you
I
want
love
to
it. I
be
love it.
steering.
What made you buy a firm versus starting something from scratch?
Yeah, well, and not trying to be boring. We did prior to this business. We actually did start a business from scratch. Me and my wife, a coaching business for photographers, which actually kind of led into this opportunity where we've bought this marketing agency. The coaching business we started largely on the experience we'd had running a photography studio. Now, this was not a full time job for me, but this was a full time job for my wife, and had a lot of learnings from the School of Hard Knocks, and ultimately was very successful running a photography studio. Realized that there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of photographers in the US, and most of them are not doing it full time, not able to really make it a real career, are waiting for gigs, and but that could actually be a real career and a real thriving business if you had repeatable processes. If you were helping people find you, helping people know how to buy photography, know what they're paying for, and understand the value. Taking that expertise, she and I, we made a business out of coaching other photographers and specifically in the boudoir niche. And now I was not ever present for any of these boudoir shoots, but I was very involved in the marketing and creating the processes and the tech systems and the web design and marketing. That really thrived, and we eventually purchased a marketing agency that was partnering with us, and that's Market Surge. And so it's funny how one thing kind of leads to another. If you follow a chain, you just keep your ears and eyes open for opportunities, they can turn into bigger things. So sometimes a little bit of effort in one direction maybe isn't exactly what you want to do, but maybe a skill you pick up in pursuing this coaching business, or a contact you make, or a partnership you make, that turns into an opportunity to do something better or even more better aligned with your skills. And that was the case here. We ran the coaching business and actually found that the opportunity to run a marketing agency was going to be even more helpful to more kinds of service and creative businesses. And so we ran with that, and we've expanded the services we offer, and we are helping companies adopt AI and put that to work for them. So mostly, I think an entrepreneurial journey is largely about being flexible, learning, and seizing opportunities when they present themselves. And it's like a series of like risks you take, and you try to, the bad risks you take, you try to cut those off quickly and not throw good money after bad. And the good risks, you try to amplify your investment in them, time and money if needed, to just maximize the return. And yeah, that it's been interesting. It's never a smooth linear path. It's listening to the market, learning about the new technologies that come out, and say like, can I do that, or should I do that? Is somebody willing to pay for that? And then making decisions like that. A lot, probably too much. When I talk to my wife, she would definitely say too much. And I have a huge appetite for risk, and she has almost no appetite for risk. And so I think we're a good balance. She wants to see the numbers. She wants to see the day-to-day financials, like what's our run rate on this ads investment or this SEO investment, or like when she was considering moving to a bigger studio, the new studio looked awesome, great location, but I was like all for it, but she broke it down to like, well, it might increase bookings by X percentage, but that's not worth it to me, even though the space is tremendously better. And so, but in her shoes, I would have made the jump, and probably that would have been a risk that you we wouldn't have wanted to make. But I do think you have to you can't be all conservative and and no faith all the time, and I think you probably need some voices in your head, whether it's like people you work with or people in your network, family members, spouses, that encourage you to take leaps, or like you just need to be trying new things. You can't be conservative to make a business grow. You have to dabble in some risks, but you just want to make sure that if it ends up being a bad choice, that you don't overextend yourself into the bad thing, trying to make it into a good thing.
I love your answers. I hear you. It's like sometimes it's like you see these things and you're just totally fearless. Just like,
Yes.
let's try this. We got to do it. Tell me something. Has there ever been a situation where you had that? You're like looking at this and it's like your gut is like, go for it. And we'll just say your better half was just kind of like, pushing back a little bit, and you just said, you know what, let's do this thing, and it worked out.
Oh, interesting. Well, okay. So, overall, I would say that the purchasing the marketing agency, that was my call. That was a big risk that we took. It was a rather than, you know, photography studio and the photography coaching business were relatively low barrier to entry investments. It was essentially sweat equity on those. She was able to find like a small studio that wasn't a large rent, and she already had most of the equipment. And so it was like, it was time plus a few $1,000s. And then with the coaching business, it was next to nothing except for the time she spent recording her videos. And I was working in the evenings I was working during the day and doing the marketing for her in the evenings. And so it was really time, but then the opportunity to purchase a marketing agency and the book of the portfolio of clients came up for us a few years back. And that was like real dollars. And that was the first time we were thinking about, well, this is money we've saved from our hard work, and we were pulling out of our retirement. And I was gung-ho about it. I was just thinking, money's like a flow. That's what I kind of described to my wife. And she is not of that mindset. And she was like, well, money, all I know is that there's going to be less of it when we spend it on this business. And and I give her a lot of credit because she does keep me grounded and keep me trying to make money every month, not just experimenting every month. But we invest in the business. We have an existing set of clients and things that they're already paying for, services that renew every month. So we've got a flow of cash coming in every month. And our intent was to finance part of this, and we were going to pay it off with the profits from the business. And we did it. But the greater risk was, I said, well, why don't we grow it even further and introduce some new services? So we're going to have SEO. We're going to do ads management in addition to the marketing automation services we were doing on the CRM. And for me, what that required is me putting myself out there as an expert based on, like never having sold myself as a consultant for ads or SEO. And I'll tell you what, the fastest way to learn anything well is to sell yourself as the expert in it. And so I knew a lot about ads, but I hadn't really done it professionally other than for our businesses. But when you start selling it, then all of a sudden you're fielding questions and different challenges that I've never encountered before. You have to think on your feet. You have to learn faster than you possibly can. You have to think through situations creatively. It's like you're doing things for the first time over and over and over again. And because there's just dozens, hundreds of first times that you encounter, but you learn it so fast. And I learned it better than if I had just gone through a certification system for meta ads, for instance, which I had done, but you learn it better when you are like you put yourself out there on the spot and you're asking people to pay you to do it, and you feel that tremendous pressure, but also exhilaration when you get it right. Some of those early clients were patient with me as I fumbled through a few things, but in the end, like we found some great solutions and we scaled together. And um, my takeaway is like you might be right, you might be wrong, but if you put yourself out there, market yourself as blank, you are going to become an expert faster than any other way. It's the real trial by fire. Ultimately, that approach worked. That, as you were asking, was I right about it? I feel like I was right about it. Y- not again, not perfectly linearly, but as I got better and better, we have been able to sign larger and larger projects and handle larger budgets, and it's it's great. But if you have any questions, like take a risk, put yourself out there, position yourself as an expert, raise your hand and say like, yes, we can do this, and um, uh, innovative client to help support you.
That I like that. You had mentioned, and I guess this is related to your response. You talked about the idea of launching new initiatives, new ideas, and to know when to bail if it's looking like it's not, if that boat's not going to float, so to speak. How do you determine what that looks like? How do you determine when at what point? How do you determine what that point is where you're just going to say, hey, you know what, this isn't working. Let's build the next thing.
Yeah. Well, I have a good example. One of the services we tried, and this is an example of something I just invested way too much time in, and it was a dead end for us. I got really excited about the idea of selling like lead lists. So I found a partner that gave us white label access to a huge database of leads. And my intent was I would create portals for my clients to filter their own lead lists. Say like I gave them like 10, you can get 10,000 for X dollars, and you'd put them into your marketing CRM and start contacting them and get rich. And I spent about 12 months trying to make this happen. And to me, like I envisioned, like I had this vision, I loved this narrative. I was like, well, we're going to have this marketing machine, and this machine is going to work like very precisely. It's going to process leads and spit out booked deals. And we're going to use all sorts of automated techniques, email campaigns and ads and all these things. And we're going to align the messaging across platforms. And to a client, we're going to make it look like you're feeding, in those arcade games that you feed quarters to, almost like maybe like a slot machine. Like if you feed a slot machine enough times, you're likely to win. But I'd probably like even a better an arcade machine where you're going to win a bunch of tickets if you keep feeding the one that spins around and lands on the dial. Um, and you're gonna be rich. You're gonna have 1,000 tickets, and you're gonna go buy the prize. But the missing part was the leads. Like, what were you gonna feed into that machine? And so I was like, I really want to sell the leads part of it. And it really, I should have known after about month 3 that it just was not selling. That piece of it just was not selling. But I'm just like, I'm so in love with this narrative. I love this story arc that I'm telling. I just want it to happen so bad. But everybody just wanted leads from ads. They wanted leads from their website. The particular set of clients I was working with, home services businesses, the photography creatives, they did not want to do the outreach, even if it was over email. They did not want to do cold outreach, and uh, so it just never happened. But I hung on to it, and I kept like trying to market it, trying to push it, and uh, I would send out free samples of these lists and just say like, oh, want more, buy these. And so I think falling in love with a narrative that is coming from your brain rather than from a client is risky. Like if it's a story you're like making up to entertain yourself, it is not, it has to be validated by a paying client, not a cool graphic that you can make, or we made some cool websites and cool, or web landing pages and some cool marketing material about it. It's like, oh, this just looks so cool. It's like one, just follows the chain, and we have a cool like arcade machine that you feed leads into as tokens. We just couldn't validate it with the market. But I just thought I was so clever, um, but nobody else did. And so like that's a risk to keep in mind. You as clever as you think you are, you're not more clever than people with money to spend, and that won't do it.
Yeah. That's always painful. That 12-month arc is just like,
Yeah,
you know,
I know.
what made you finally kill it?
Well, they raised prices on the offering, and hold on just one second. I'm going to cough. Of course, I got something down the wrong pipe. Yeah, they raised the price of the product, and I was reevaluating. Do I want another year of doing this at twice the price and the same amount of revenue from it, which was zero? They helped make my decision for me. So if they hadn't raised the price, I'd probably be like, "Oh, Rick, do you want to try these?" Like, yeah, a cool story to
It's not
tell. But
fun anymore.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a lot less fun when it's twice as expensive.
I hear you. I hear you. You've talked about marketing automation a few times. You talk about CRM and that sort of thing, and of course, we've got for the past few years we've got AI adoption. That's happening at a rate. So what I'd like for you to talk to us about, just in a general sense, is what marketing automation really looks like. Building the system, expectations, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, so in your marketing is a lot about communication. So it's you as a brand, you're communicating your service offering and why you're valuable and different and better than the competitors, or better than doing nothing. So it's communicating that, and sales can help with that, but you put your message out there in the form of your website, your storefront, your ads, outreach if you do it like email, or in some cases text or phone calls outbound. But it requires some action on your part. And so if it's an email, that email has to be written, it has to be sent to an individual. Somebody has to physically physically send it. Usually means like click on send. Now, over time, when just a quick example, when I was a young salesperson, I was an early adopter of LinkedIn. As early as like 2006, I was using LinkedIn to sell. And back then, you could connect with anybody. Everybody would accept your connection requests. People would respond to you very quickly because it was so novel. You get like a CEO to respond to a LinkedIn message, no problem. But over time, our inboxes got fuller. People realized that they couldn't respond to every message, and that the people selling brands realized that it was also quite easy to send a lot of messages. And so the filtering happened, and there's been a kind of some back and forth. And in order to really convert like an email message, you do have to send like hundreds of initial emails to get any response at all. And that number will probably continue to rise. So, but it's more than you can physically send in a day. And so if you're just doing one thing like that, you need a system where you can upload a list, or instruct a CRM or outreach system to do the same action to a large number of people with a single action on your part. Now that's basic automation. As in recent years, we've started to note that it's not just a single message, it's multiple messages over time, multiple follow-ups. And so you need that same system that sent hundreds of emails to send it again, or a second message in a few days, and then follow-ups after that. And then another iteration is like, well, what if they respond? Well, do you have the ability to respond quickly to all of those messages? And sometimes they come in after work hours, sometimes they come in, you get a lot at a time, and you want to respond in a way that is personable, relevant, and some people just have a simple response like, "Oh, thanks, I'm going to get back to you," or "Can we schedule a time to talk?" Other people have started introducing AI that actually read and synthesize the message of the email, and they respond intelligently. Like, say they respond and say, well, tell me how much it is, and then you've got an AI that can understand the question and respond in a way that actually pushes the conversation forward. And um, and then where complexity is introduced, and we're just talking about email, the further complexity is when there's multiple systems involved. So, what if somebody is communicating with you over LinkedIn, communication stops for whatever reason? You can add a system that then transfers it to an email system. Or if that stops, then can we also send texts? Or can I get reminders that they should be in an ads audience to remind them to continue with this? Or vice versa, like an ads viewer or form submitter should be getting your newsletter. And so the automation in that case is to help your audiences be directed to other value added communication threads. And so that requires a system that connects systems and does it intelligently. And so there's some like architecture behind the scenes. But what we're going to see more and more with AI is that AI agents will have access to log into these systems. And if if you got a hold of today, like the CEO of NVIDIA, for some big project you wanted to sell him, one of the biggest companies in the world, booming, and you got him on the line, you're like, oh, I've got his attention. And you thought like, well, and he gave me his number to text him, like you would take some intelligent actions to help to direct that to a sale. And that would go a little bit beyond automation. Like, what if he said like, you need to talk to my head of this department, and an AI agent can help with those kinds of intelligent actions. You probably wouldn't want to at this point trust an AI agent with that kind of opportunity. But as more complexity happens in these sales and marketing communications, the AI agents can bridge multiple systems in smart ways, that use your brand language, brand standards, your product and service information, and combine that for some effective communication that closes deals. And we're going to get there where these agents are essentially doing what you would do in the same position. So I hope that answers your question. Let me know if I need to get more specific, but I'm excited about these opportunities. I think that AI presents some real growth opportunity, and I don't know, just like every day there's something new with it that makes it better.
Yeah, absolutely. What one of the things I'm going to compare this to the job market.
Yeah.
So in the job market, what's happening is, uh, a job is posted,
Hmm.
and everyone that has an interest in that job, or not, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people that have interest in this job, they're using an AI tool to basically modify their resume to fit the requirements for the job, and they're submitting the job. And so what's happening is the systems that and they're submitting them to another system, obviously. I mean, that system is, going through and evaluating the resume, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we have is this huge um, influx of data going into these systems, and it's making it harder for the systems, making it harder for the recruiters to get to the people that are actually qualified. And my fear is that that is the same thing that would happen with marketing,
Mm.
because as the systems get smarter and obviously they get easier to use,
Yeah.
we and the AI bots can potentially adapt communications based on who they're talking to. How do we become successful in our business development activities if everybody's doing the same thing, essentially selling the same, similar services, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. No, this is a good question. And you almost get to like the level of philosophy, because the next, what I described from a marketing standpoint, well, the next step is that consumers or business buyers in this scenario, or whoever's the buyer in this scenario, they then arm themselves with AI agents to respond and filter queries, and like decide what emails are worth responding to. And so you described as a process where essentially AI is talking to AI in the job world, and that I fully anticipate that to happen in the sales scenario, sales and marketing scenario. So there's no reason to believe it wouldn't. Now that would create some real efficiencies, because your AI buyer is going to look for best products to buy. But I'm going to say something maybe a little unconventional. Hopefully, it's unconventional. But I do think that we need to, as professionals, whether we're running a business or we're in a sales and marketing role, we do need to fill our brains with like information from the physical world, like whether it's reading books or talking to meeting new people, talking to people with different experiences than ourselves, doing that traditional networking. We need to, if we are training bots, we need to be seeking novelty and originality as much as possible. And like we need to extend the limits, our borders of creativity, so we can come up with novel ideas. I mean, we're not going to be able to ignore AI. Like it is just going to be prevalent everywhere, but we are going to need to um like outpace it creatively. And like we need solutions, unconventional solutions. We need to um be willing to experiment and vet things. Honestly, I think it like comes down to like, read a book, talk to your neighbors, go to places you haven't been before, try a new food. We need to like ourselves develop like a learning pattern and seek out new things, or what's the point, because the AI, they're going to make both the selling and buying decisions for us, and we'll get lost in the mix. So I mean, I think that's like the activity of now. It's just like we need to make ourselves better and smarter.
It's brilliant. I never considered that. It has to do with being creative. It's like I see this here, but there's application there, where an AI bot typically might not make that connection.
Right.
And this is, our creativity is really, as humans, it's our unique selling point because we can make connections where, where they might not naturally fit,
Right. Right.
which is a brilliant approach. And so what we need to do, we need to, like, back in the 80s and 90s, we had this thing called, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, we thought differently because,
Yeah.
we played with sticks and rocks and that sort of
Yes.
thing, and we just figured stuff out. And these are skills that we need to continue to develop and continue to nurture. I love what you said, having conversations, meeting people, trying new foods, going different places, exposing yourself to different situations which require you to think differently, and to do it without, I think one of the keys is doing it without expectation, because
Yeah.
expectation creates, a bit of a framework, a bit of a box for us to, to through which we see the world. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well,
That's
thank you.
absolutely brilliant. It's
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I imagine you probably run into that situation where you're creating something using AI and just really getting to a point where you're just bumping up against the wall. It's just like you're not really creating, anything that's novel. This.
Right.
I can write better myself, like literally.
Yeah. Well, and it's so easy to, you can ask AI to do anything, generate any kind of content or
Yeah,
code apps or whatnot. And then, after a while of just clicking enter, you like realize like, well, what am I here for? Like, I'm here to click enter. What am I adding in this situation? Rick, honestly, I think like this exercise of doing a podcast, you came on my podcast, and, I learned from you, and you've put a podcast out there. I'm sure a bunch of people approach you to pitch themselves to do it. And each time it's like a surprise. Like, what am I going to hear? I'm going to meet somebody from sometimes across the world, and they're going to have a unique perspective. I mean, I think we just need to create more situations where we drop ourselves into a little bit of a foreign situation, and then all of a sudden, like kind of like a new chamber in my brain opened up. And I think this exercise is like good emblematic of that. I think AIs, they work in the aggregate. They field a ton of data, and then they kind of combine it into like a best practice, like one best practice. But it would be good if we could approach our use of AI as like, well, I just learned this interesting angle here, or I heard this idea here, and I'm gonna approach this just a little bit differently. And I think there's some opportunity.
What are some recommendations you would have for folks that are getting into AI, just in terms of producing, say we're producing an email campaign, we'll say, so 3 or 4 emails. So what are some best practices that you would recommend to someone doing that?
Yeah. So I think it's wise to give the AI as many parameters as you can for the output. There are some, when I say these things, I don't want to like dumb it down or make it sound like people aren't familiar, but like it is really helpful in a prompt that you instruct the AI to answer as an expert in this field, or, like if you're addressing a certain industry, um, or even just say like answer as an email outreach expert and give it specific output. Say, I want this length of an email. I'd like to include this call to action and this link, and or I would like you to recommend a call to action and this link. I'd like to take this tone. Maybe you're asking for a 5 email campaign. I'd recommend this cadence. So it's a little bit of push and pull. It's like you give it the structure, but you also ask, you can recommendations. And the more information you give it, the better the output is. It's also ideal to bring in other campaigns that have been used at this organization or examples of competitors emails that you have seen for reference. I like to take the approach of, if I build something in chat gpt, and I really want it polished, I'll take the same output, I'll go put it into Gemini or Claude and say, this is what chat gpt gave me, can you do better? And sometimes the output will be very different, or it'll just say like, I just recommend a couple tweaks. And you have multiple AIs with different learnings that are enhancing this. And you can take dashboard data from the success or failure of these emails and ask for refinements. And so the use of these custom GPTs or custom agents is really valuable. You can create sections of these GPTs that have training on your specific business and only your specific business, and ask it like, based on the services I offer or the things that I write about on my website, please refine, please write accordingly. Those are kind of like some of the basics that you can do in AI and content generation. Beyond that, I think everybody needs to get on one of these coding platforms like Lovable or Cursor. I would strongly recommend that everybody get acquainted with that, because in a year we'll be talking about like, you need to get on these robot building platforms. But for now, you need to be familiar with how AI is building apps, and whether or not especially if you're not a computer engineer, you need to start playing around and start building, an app. Like, think of something that you just need, like that would be convenient. Like, I need something that helps me answer the doorbell when I'm on the phone or something, like my Ring doorbell. And you give it those simple instructions, and you will see that the Cursor or Lovable, they are going to build you a full app. And you like you will be amazed, like, with the power that you hold. Uh, and I think that everybody, and this is on a free version of these softwares. Everybody should try these.
I agree. Yeah, a friend of mine uh challenged me to that last year. I went and built an app. It was like,
Uh,
this is so cool, because I've built like, things before, coding
mhm.
and all that good stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is done already.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just like, this would have cost me thousands of dollars if I hired a developer to build it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's the challenge sometimes I have, with some of the AI tools is sometimes I just feel like it just takes so long to
Mm,
do things because it's just like,
sure.
no, this isn't right. This isn't right. Okay, let's break this down into a paragraph level. I don't like this sentence, da da da. Or with coding, sometimes it can be even worse. It's just like, okay, well, you're supposed to follow these instructions and this syntax is wrong, da 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 da. And it's really sometimes I'm really like this. It's like this push pull thing. You know what I mean? And just like, this isn't what I do.
Right. You're right. There is a little bit of iteration, but I think one of the good things though is that if you're working with an AI agent in a context window, it can get better. It can kind of learn your tendencies, and if you give it feedback, it will get better. And it's a little bit eerie that way, that it learns as if it were human.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just giggling about like some of my interactions where I've had to explain to them that I've explained things multiple times.
Right. Yeah. Well, and sometimes at work, if you express some urgency or anger, I was doing this in Cursor. I'm like, we've been through this several times. I need to fix, and I tried a different approach, and it worked. And I was like, that that is bizarre. Like, I got impatient with it, and it behaved differently. That is
The only one.
that's right. And it apologized to me. It was like crazy.
I got to the point one day I was like, you know what? I don't need your apologies. I just need a solution.
I know, I know. I just hope it doesn't come to the day where where AI is like asking for our apologies. It's like, you should have been more patient with us.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, or worse.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like growing up watching the Terminator and the
I
Matrix and all
know,
that good stuff. It's just like there's always that little in the back of my brain. It's like it's gonna
I
come back
know, I know. I
one day.
saw these back flipping robots from China that are carrying M16s, and I'm like, oh boy, like
Yeah,
that's
war is really scary.
yeah,
So, last
yes,
question for you. The
yes.
name of the show obviously is the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. And, as we know, I mean, anybody can define winning in whatever context they have. The challenge that we have sometimes is that relentless pursuit, just continuing to go to push forward regardless of, what's happening around us. Obviously, we don't want to, going back to your story about, knowing when to quit.
Yeah,
But the hard part I find sometimes is that relentless pursuit. We have a company, we're building our company, we're doing the thing that we do, and we're serving our clients. What do you recommend to folks? What do they need to have in their toolbox, or what kinds of things that they need to do in order to maintain that relentless pursuit? What would you recommend?
yeah. That's a good question. I think it's enjoying. You've heard the term, like, you do it for like love of the game, whatever that game is. Like, make sure you're in that game that you love. And is it a field you love, or is it a discipline or a product, or something? Like, make sure you're there because you love playing in that, dabbling in that field, learning. I've When I was a kid, there were times when we were able to find a door we could crack open at my church and play basketball all the time, and after school, and we would just play and play and play, and won as many games as I lost, but we just loved to play. And I think that if in your entrepreneurial journey, it's going to be filled with wins and losses. But if you are in a field that you like, and you're using tools and technologies, and working with people that you really like and love, then you will just continue to play and continue to try to win and get better. And so I think that's just there. Put yourself in a field you love, and you're going to continue to seek those wins, and you'll bounce back faster from the losses, and eventually the wins will overwhelm the losses.
Love that. I love that. If anybody wants to have a chat with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah. So the best way is reach out to me at marketsurge.io. There's some contact pop-ups. That's our agency. I'm available as a guest on a podcast. We do digital marketing for small and medium-sized businesses. And tune in if you just do marketsurge.io/podcast. You can hear our podcast with Rick and others. And love to meet all of you. Bounce ideas off of, or work together.
Thank you so much, Reed. Loved our conversation. Thank you so much for indulging me. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Rick. This was fun. I appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. And folks, thank you so much for watching or listening to another episode of the Relentless Pursuit of Winning podcast. We'll catch you next time.